Hello and welcome to Mental Floss video. Today we're going to be talking about cooking and food and eating and the kitchen and whether you can use wine bottles as rolling pins and all that stuff. Let's get started.
We're going to start with an interesting piece of research that tells us what sets Indian food apart from North American and other cuisines. A group from the Indian Institute for Technology in Jodhpur did an analysis of Indian recipes because they were interested in something called co-occurrence of ingredients. Basically, some ingredients have similar flavor compounds. They taste alike, whereas other ingredients have no overlap. These differences affect how ingredients are used in recipes, and chemists can explain that down to the molecules in food. There are around 50 compounds per ingredient that can affect how a recipe will taste when you start combining things. Some ingredients that share flavor compounds make a lot of sense, like apples and cider. Others are a little less self-explanatory, like beef shares flavor compounds with soybeans and peanut butter. Beef and peanut butter. I need to try that next. In North American and Western European cooking, you're more likely to see ingredients together that share flavor compounds. But in Southern European and East Asian food, there's less overlap in ingredient flavors. The researchers took about 2,500 recipes from a website called Tarla Dalal. There were 8 different types of regional subcuisines. All of the recipes were analyzed on an ingredient level, and there was an average of 7 ingredients per recipe. Their findings confirmed the hypothesis that all of those subcuisines of Indian food use negative food pairing, ingredients with less overlap of flavor compounds. When they compared these recipes with a random cuisine from elsewhere, average flavor sharing in Indian cuisine was significantly lesser than expected by chance. They found 10 ingredients that were primarily responsible for the pattern. All but 1 were spices. The researchers considered green bell pepper a spice. So if you're someone who has always thought that the best thing for cooking is combining overlapping flavors, you might stock up on more spices and give this method a try.
Okay, it's time for some cooking life hacks. If there's one thing I've learned from doing this show for 5 years, it's that nothing goes together better than the kitchen and life hacks. So I'm gonna test some for you. So the internet tells me that filling a huge syringe with frosting is a more precise way to decorate cookies, and of course we all have huge syringes at home. Oh, wait, it's happening. Guys, I made a really good spiral. It looks a little bit like intestines, but it isn't. It's a spiral. Now I've figured out how to do it though, so I'm gonna crush it this time. We're gonna do a dollop, not as centered as I would like it. Another dollop, a nose dollop, and then a smile dollop. I kind of messed it up at the end. I think that is recognizable as a smiley face, and so I think that means that this is a pass. Another decorating hack, we have here a piece of lace and some powdered sugar, and apparently that'll make a cupcake pretty without even needing frosting. So we have an unfrosted cupcake here. So we're just gonna sprinkle some powdered sugar, and then we're gonna remove the lace. Oh yeah, I mean, that is beautiful. This makes my cookies look like they were made by the cake boss. Fail. Moving on to a totally different ingredient, an apple cutter is supposed to be an easy and quick way to slice an onion. Also tearless, I hope. Let's see here. I wouldn't say easy. You know what I'm gonna do? Just gonna peel it a little bit. Onions are such a useful food, but what a gross idea. What's the core ingredient of most cooking? Oh, well, we dig it out of the ground and it makes you cry. It's like a metaphor. I've peeled the onion. Now I'm gonna try to slice the onion in one fell swoop. 1, 2. Oh boy! I mean, that worked. That worked. I don't think I could have done that a year ago. Didn't really go all the way through. Come on back here, buddy. You can do it. Come on out. What you really end up with is more of a bloomin' onion situation than a sliced onion as such, but I love a bloomin' onion, so I'm gonna say pass. So this is orange juice, and when I was a child, the way that you drank orange juice was that you opened up this and there was a whole hullabaloo, but now we've solved for that problem with this thing, but I read on the internet that the best way to pour it is not actually this way, even though that's the obvious way, and I think the way that the manufacturers intended. The best way to pour it is you put this little guy down a little bit, and then you go this way. Okay, versus this way. You know, I think it is a little better this way. because you have a little more control over the flow. What in the actual heck? Pass. Okay, so apparently a wine bottle is an acceptable rolling pin. We don't have like a cutting board or anything, but don't worry, we don't need one. We have a desk. Just gonna put some flour down. Then we got some dough here. Meredith, is this pre-cut dough to make like Pillsbury biscuits? Okay, just wanted to check. Oh wait, I should probably put the rolling pin in some flour as well. It's a really good bottle of wine, Meredith. Where'd you pick this up? They give these away free at the liquor store? Like, what's the... Okay, here we go. It works, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It rolls the dough. Pass.
It's possible we shouldn't be learning to cook from the amateur internet. Instead, let's learn some tips from the real pros, celebrity chefs. Like, it turns out that we can make vast improvements just by adjusting what temperature we use to cook. According to Bobby Flay, home cooks never let their pans get hot enough. If you don't see a wisp of smoke coming from the oil in your skillet, you'll never get a proper sear on that steak or fish. With bread dough, you want to do the opposite. In Julia Child's book, The Way to Cook, she writes, "If you let your bread dough rise in too warm a place, you'll get a lot of hot air but little flavor and texture." Her suggestion is to let it rise where it's between 70 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Fish, on the other hand, might benefit from some time and room temperature. Emeril Lagasse suggests keeping it at room temperature for half an hour before grilling. This should prevent it from sticking to the grill. Speaking of the grill, Rachel Ray prefers kosher salt to regular table salt on burgers. In her words, the kosher salt forms a crust on the burger and falls off into the grill, whereas regular salt sinks into the meat and leaves it too salty. And if it's summertime and you're grilling, maybe you're also preparing pineapple. Gordon Ramsay's YouTube channel has a cooking tip video which includes the perfect way to tell if a pineapple is ripe. You remove one of the top leaves. If it's easy to do, you have a ripe pineapple. But okay, maybe grilling and fruit don't intimidate you. Let's look at a serious event. Thanksgiving. In Food and Wine, Anthony Bourdain, rest in peace, once wrote, "I insist you make lists, shop early, and once you have all of your provisions, spread the work out over 3 days." Jamie Oliver is all about preventing food waste. One of his suggestions, pickle the vegetable you're not using. He also recommends avoiding tedious vegetable peeling. He once said, "The flavor is in the skin. Unless there's a reason to, I just wash and scrub my veggies." It's all getting a little overwhelming, so let's take it back to frozen pizza, which, as it turns out, is one of Wolfgang Puck's favorites. He told Redbook that it's always in his kitchen, but he sprinkles it with fresh Parmesan, olive oil, and chili flakes. That sounds good. Speaking of Italian food, Giada De Laurentiis knows the most common pasta mistakes: overcooking it, not salting the water enough, and adding oil to the pasta. Let's finish up with a reassuring tip from Ina Garten. Just calm down. She told Bon Appetit magazine her suggestion for becoming a great cook: pick 5 recipes that are really simple, then do variations on those 5 recipes. I think people get too complicated and spend too much time trying to impress everybody. Just keep it really simple.
Listen, all those celebrity chefs can't do everything on their own, okay? There's a lot that goes into making a cooking show. According to a publicist for the Food Network in 2009, there are about 15 to 20 people dealing with food on your typical show. Each program has a culinary producer who helps manage everything, picking recipes, planning what food and utensils go where on set, and even deciding when the host will stop preparation and pull out one of those already completed dishes. There are also people who ensure that everything looks delicious at all times. In an interview with LA Weekly, Shanti Inohos, a chef and food stylist for the Hallmark Channel, revealed a few of her tricks. She uses marbles at the bottom of soup so the solid components are near the top. A heat gun can be taken to old cheese to remelt it, and flour and vanilla frosting combined looks like ice cream. But nowadays, if you're watching Food Network, you're more likely to see a lot of cooking competition shows rather than a chef talking about recipes. And there are some components of those that you don't see on screen either, like contestants on Chopped actually get tours of the pantry for 5 to 10 minutes while the camera is off. Chef Alison Robicelli once wrote wrote about her experience, including the pantry tour. She explained most of that time was devoted to a producer who gave us instructions on how to operate the most expensive equipment, the anti-griddle or sous vide, for example, without breaking them. Of course, nobody uses these things. In addition to the tour, before a round begins, the ovens are preheated and each contestant gets a pot of boiling water. Lucky them. Another thing you don't see is how long the judging process takes. Chopped contestants estimate that the judges film their assessments for about 90 minutes. In 2015, MasterChef contestant Elise Mayfield described a similar process on that show. She said the actual critiques, they were pretty lengthy. They all spend significant time on the dishes regardless of whether they're bad or good. So if you're a cooking show enthusiast, just remember that you're not seeing everything. And that also includes some of the important cleanliness components. In a study published in 2016 in the Journal of Public Health, participants watched a variety of cooking shows while taking note of how hygienically everything was being prepared. The researchers concluded that, quote, celebrity chefs are simply not demonstrating good food safety behaviors. And they pinpointed the most common issues: handling raw meat without hand washing, sampling and handling ready-to-eat foods with hands, and not giving appropriate indicators for meat doneness. Gross.
Thanks for watching Mental Floss video, which is brought to you by all of these lovely people. If you'd like to see upcoming Scatterbrained episodes, don't forget to subscribe and click like on this video. Thank you again for watching, and DFTBA.